Like I was totally surprised. I think I even like texted Logan. I'm like, I've never gotten this high on an accounting exam, like ever. Like, holy cow,
Yeah.
like this works.
Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience Podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's interview, you're going to hear Nate and I talking to Kevin. Now, Kevin is somebody that I actually knew in my master's program. He's a pretty cool guy, and I remember talking to him all throughout the master's, kind of being like, hey, you should be going for the exam and things like that. And at the time, he just didn't feel like it was quite the right time. I remember that towards the end of his master's degree, he finished a little bit before me. He decided to start getting into the CPA exams, and he watched the SuperFast CPA training webinar. And I remember going to class one day, and he was super pumped about taking the CPA exams with the SuperFast CPA approach. And as you watch this video, you're going to see that he did an awesome job. He had a little bit of a rough start where he was kind of like, I don't know if this is right for me. He actually even asked Nate for a refund because he just felt like it wasn't working for him. But Nate messaged him back and said, hey, I understand, but maybe you should just give it another try this a little bit longer and see what you think. So Kevin went back, he kind of rethought his process, and as you'll see, he passed all of his exams in a pretty short time frame. He even was able to take a break for a busy season for taxes, and then he came back and he still passed his exams, and he honestly just crushed the whole process. And I think this is a great episode for people who are kind of starting with SuperFast CPA or are kind of questioning if they should use SuperFast CPA, because Kevin kind of had those thoughts too. He was like, I don't know if this is quite right for me. I don't know if this is really working. But he came back and he passed his exams. And this episode will show you that if you're feeling like that, but then you go apply the process as best as you possibly can, you will see results. And that's kind of what this is all about, right? Now, before we dive into the episode, I just want to give everyone one more reminder about the SuperFast CPA training webinar on superfastcpa.com. Again, it's only 1 hour. It is free, and we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam. This is 1 hour that will save you months and months of struggling with the CPA exams. Make sure you go check out that webinar. And now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the episode with Kevin.
When you were studying and kind of struggling, what were your main struggles, I guess specifically before you started using SuperFast CPA?
I actually kind of started using it from the beginning. I remember I was in the same like cohort in college with Logan, and he was just telling us that his story, how he passed, so quickly with everything. And he was like the main salesperson there at our university over it. So I actually started with it from the beginning.
Okay.
But as we'll probably get into later, there was a time when like I used it for a little bit. But then as I was studying full time, so I had like a ton of time. I felt like I just had all day. So I'm like, okay, well, doesn't make sense to skip the lectures. I might as well do that if I have the time. So I do that. And I was kind of shooting for that like exam day ready thing in Becker.
Yeah.
They'd have a little percentage thing there. And I was like, okay, I got to get 100%, but that just turned into like a ton of work, a lot of wasted time. And I remember just at the end of every day, I'd just be exhausted because I'd spend an hour of my day just doing the lectures and then still struggling through the multiple choice questions and everything. And so I remember, I didn't pass my first exam section. So I realized I'm like, hey, I got to go back. I gotta figure something else out. And I think it was when I started just doing the multiple choice question only stuff. It just saved me a ton of time. And I wasn't really like questioning whether I was, learning everything that I needed to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess typically I go from that question to like, okay, then when you started using us and things were clicking, how did it help specifically? But to insert a question in there. So like we were saying, you initially requested a refund, and I think that was a combination of like you said, you had all day to study. So you were kind of like, I don't think this is approaches for me, or what wasn't working that made you, make that initial request?
Yeah, I think it was just, I in my email to you, I think I remember I was like, I don't think your product is bad or anything. I think it's totally fine, but I have all this time to study. I don't think I need to do the multiple choice question only approach or, do all this stuff because I'm not like that busy CPA that, is advertised. And so I'm like, well, it kind of just felt like wasted money. And so I'm like, I think I'm just gonna, just ask for that refund and then just kind of, just go from there. But I think I kind of quickly learned, I'm like, okay, well, this is a ton of stuff. Like Becker has almost way more stuff than you actually need. And to go through all of that is just a little bit pointless. Like you kind of need to find an effective way to study.
Yeah.
And after my first attempt, I found out, I'm like, okay, this actually is an effective way to do it. I shouldn't just be wasting my time, even though I have all day technically.
Yeah.
Just after I was like, listen, give this another try or whatever I said. I mean, I pull up the emails before, but I didn't. Um, but did you go back in and like rewatch the pro course videos, or what kind of made I don't know, did you come back and do anything different after that, and that's how it clicked, or what happened where it finally clicked?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like after your email, I think it invited me to like just extend the refund period until after my first attempt.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'll be honest, I didn't really change much after that actually. I think I kind of still was like, okay, well, I'll read the audio, or I'm sorry, the review notes every once in a while. I'll do a few things here and there, but I still kind of stuck with my main thing. Again, I was just really trying to get that like 100% in Becker, get
Yeah.
the what do you call it, exam day ready badge and
The
stuff.
nice green check marks.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I couldn't move on until I had, done everything technically. And I didn't really, I think, change until it was after my first attempt
I
where I
see.
went in, I took audit and I got like a 70. So I was still within range, but, I had done literally everything in Becker. Like I'd annotated the book, I followed along in the lectures and everything. I probably wasted like 10 pens of ink or inks of pen, whatever, just going through everything. And I still failed, so I'm like, okay, something definitely needs to change. And that was when I kind of got over that, like, okay, you don't need to do everything, you don't need that little green check box. um just focus on the things that are most important, and that helped a ton.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So to clarify, just making sure I understand the timing there. So you asked for the refund before you went in and took your first exam. So
Yeah.
you were already kind of like, I don't think I need this. And then you failed. And then was that the point where I mean, obviously you literally just said that that's where you changed it. So that's where you went and started doing the multiple choice questions. But you'd asked for the refund beforehand. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think I was about like 3 weeks in, and if I remember, I
Okay.
was kind of like,
Okay.
man, I paid all this money just to have them tell me to do multiple choice questions. Like, what's the deal here? I was like, I don't think I could definitely use that extra money.
Yeah.
But
For
I
sure.
learned later on, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, no, there's a lot more to this, and if I dedicate
Mhm.
myself to it, I think that'll help a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Like it boils down to like the multiple choice questions, but there's a lot more to the whole strategy than that.
yeah.
Um, if so with all that info, like I mean, you kind of mentioned this, Kevin. I know you, like I actually know you personally. We went to school together. So kind of going back to just for the benefit of everybody who doesn't know you, what was like where were you? What had you just done and what were you doing when you were doing the CPA? Like what was the kind of that journey to getting to the point of starting the CPA?
Yeah, so yeah, as you know, like I went to Utah Valley University out in Utah, and I had just graduated with my Master's of Accountancy degree. And I remember like there was a few people like you as well that were doing the exams during the like during the semester, but I kind of
Yeah.
just decided to take some time after I was graduated to knock them out. So I think I graduated, worked for a little bit, and then I actually moved out here to Colorado. And then I just was studying for the entire rest of the year from like August until the end of the year. So I was super lucky to have that extra time. And if there is anybody that's watching this that is wondering if they should do that, and if you have the opportunity, I would really recommend it. I know it's definitely not like for everybody. Not everybody can do it, but it helped me a ton. I was really glad I took that time to do it. But yeah, so I came back and then just started studying pretty much when I got like almost right when I got home. And then just studied from, yeah, again, August until December until I started my new job in January.
And so at that point, I remember like it was like your last day of your whole master's, and or like very close to it. And I remember you had just watched the webinar for
Uh,
Fast CPA, like just like that day or like a few days ago, and you were like, "Oh man, I'm so pumped! Like I'm so excited to like," because you were just the webinar got you like super excited, and I remembered that. So you took that, and then you were studying all day. What did your day typically look like when you were doing that full-time studying, like
Mhm.
before and after you took audit? Because I'm assuming it changed a little bit. So what did it look like before and after, like day
Yeah.
the full day?
Yeah. Well, and to go back to that too, yeah, I was definitely very hyped when I first watched that and
Yeah.
everything. And I
Yeah.
think that like Nate has a thing in one of his videos where it's like, yeah, it's easy to get really hyped on this. And then you kind of realize like, wow, this is a lot of info. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Superfast helps
Yeah.
you a ton, but it's definitely not a cheat code. Like you still got to put in the work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I definitely hit that eventually. But yeah, I'd say like starting out, if I can remember, it was forever ago, but um, starting out, I think I would just pick a lecture. Like obviously, I would do it in order, but just kind of like watch the lecture and then go into the multiple choice questions. Take notes like in the book. For my first attempt, I pretty much had everything in like annotated and highlighted in the book and everything. Um, and then yeah, I think I would just kind of see how many modules I could get through in a day, essentially. Didn't really have like any other plan aside from that. Like I felt like Becker just kind of had the structure, and then we were good.
Hmm.
So I'd kind of just watch that, and then do the mini exams as I went, and then towards the end, I would do the simulated exams. And so
Was
that was
that like
all.
a, oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Was that like a full 8 hour day
I
or?
wasn't able to do like a full 8 hour day. I think I'd usually average about like of actual studying, probably like anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours or so. I just remember, yeah, it felt like very just exhausting, honestly. Like it
Yeah.
was like yeah,
Mhm.
I can work for 8 hours a day, but actually studying and stuff, it felt like a lot. So usually I was able to get about 4 to 6 or so. But yeah, that was all before before I really took on like the super fast CPA like strategy, like before my attempt. And then after my attempt, I ended up just moving straight to BEC because I wasn't going to get my score back for another few weeks. And then after that, that's when I actually started like the 2 hour study session with the re-review. And I
Yeah.
think as Nate had suggested, and I think Logan as well in the forum, you suggested this too, is just try to get as many of those blocks in as you can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I do the 2 hour study session, planting the seeds with the re-review at the end. And then I try to just go back and then just do that all over again with a new
Hmm.
module. And then if I had extra time, especially during like right before an exam, I would just do as many re-review sessions as I could, like just the 30 multiple choice questions, maybe focus that on like one or two areas that I was struggling with. But I would really just kind of try and focus just on that block.
Nice. And so what was your timeline? So that first attempt where you failed audit and then yeah, like how long did you study for that? And then how long did the other four, yeah, to pass the four? When did that end?
Um, let's see. Well, the first three exams, it took me from August until the end of the year. Like I think I
Okay.
took my last exam right before that blackout period.
Mhm.
So what was that, about 5 months or so. And then I started my job in January, and then I took it right after our spring busy season. So I did have my last one while I was working full time as well. So I took
Okay.
that one in like May. So I think it was a solid like 6 months or so of studying.
Nice.
Yeah.
So your BEC was you passed that. So you go from audit to BEC and passed that, and then you knew
Yep.
you kind of had it.
Yeah. I ended up like landing like an 87 on BEC. Like I was totally surprised. I think I even like texted Logan. I'm like, I've never gotten this high on an accounting exam like ever. Like, holy cow,
Yeah.
like this works.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
went back to
Yeah.
then I went back to audit and then retook that. And yeah, I raised my points by like 15 points. Like it was great. So then after that, I'm like, okay, yeah, this definitely works. And then just pass the rest of them first try.
Awesome. So one question that pops up, or I've asked this before on because even if someone's doing the traditional study approach, like you were saying, where you're trying to get everything marked off in your Becker dashboard, like you are still doing multiple choice questions, for
Mhm.
each lesson. Um, so what was I guess again, even though you were doing multiple choice for your audit attempt, what was the difference in how you approached MCQs, I guess, that made such a big difference to BEC?
I would say probably like the biggest one was just like actually going back and doing those multiple choice questions again, like doing the re-review. I felt
Okay.
like it was pretty easy just to nail down those multiple choice questions in the moment. But like just like the classic super fast CPA, advice is you just got to keep going back and keep cementing that. Um, I think on audit there'd be times when I would like kind of get the idea down and I would understand it for that topic, and then I'd move on, and then I just kind of forget it later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think actually like, doing them and getting that repeat exposure is what definitely helped the most. And then also what really resonated with me, especially with audit, was like understanding the why behind each
Mm.
question. like just really understanding why it's right or why it's wrong. And even if you
Mhm.
do get it right, it's like, do you really understand what the topic is behind that? I feel like that
Okay.
was kind of like the foundation of like the MCQ first approach.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that especially like that's true for all MCQs, but especially like audit and ISC now, where they're so conceptual.
Yeah.
The idea of like knowing the why behind the question, like it makes a huge difference because, and this happens all the time, and I had it happen myself, especially with again with audit and ISC, is you're seeing the same questions over and over again, and they're very similar, and your brain just can recognize the question the instant it sees it. Like, oh, I've seen that 10 times. I know that this is the answer.
Yeah.
But that's a trap because when you get to exam day, you're probably not going to see that question again, but you
Yeah.
memorized that specific question. So instead of memorizing the question, just understanding the reason, like the why, makes it so that no matter what question you see, you can answer it. And I'm guessing that's what you saw. Like that's the big difference that you saw
Oh
there.
yeah. No, yeah, I definitely saw that like in my audit attempt as well. Like I remember when I went in, I'm like, okay, I've seen this topic before, but like I didn't spend enough time like
Mhm.
actually getting to learn it. During my second attempt though, I remember, yeah, I had so much better of an understanding behind each topic. I just knew why, certain things were that way. I'll be honest, I feel like I've forgotten a lot of it already. Just a lot of
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah,
audit stuff.
Doesn't matter though.
that's how it
But I do
always
You
remember
is.
just
got
exactly. I feel like I was just so locked in, honestly. And that was a big thing too. Like just doing that approach, it gave me so much more confidence, like just going into the exam. It's like I feel like I actually know these things instead of just kind of like memorizing it and you know, just getting those points in Becker.
Yeah. I mean, I think really what it comes down to is just the amount of exposure to each topic. Like I'm always saying this on our videos, the webinar, whatever. With the traditional approach, you work through each lesson once and then do a final review. So essentially
Mhm.
you've covered everything twice. But with this approach, you're doing re-review as part of each study session and ideally like using our study tools, which is just more re-review. So
Mhm.
by the end of 8 weeks or whatever, you've hit every topic, I don't know, 30, 50 times. Like it just makes sense. That's going to like work better.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that, even
And
though you were studying full time, did you use our study tool? Did you kind of do the mini sessions I did at all?
Yeah, probably not as much as like some of the other candidates have, but
Hmm.
one thing that it enabled me to do is like anybody that knows me knows I really like cycling. Like I love going for bike rides and stuff, and it kind of gave me the chance to like study even during those times.
Mm.
Like during my study breaks, I'd go for a bike ride and I would just listen to the audio notes as I went.
Yeah.
And I remember I would kind of just like start to memorize certain parts, and I knew that that was when it was starting to stick.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like crazy active studying, but it kind of helped me at least just to like it helped my brain just think about the material during my off time, and still kind of get that studying in, even if I wasn't like at my desk.
Yeah, for sure.
and when you say cycling, I can't remember because I remember you talking about bikes and stuff like that when I was in our bachelor's and in our master's. Is that like road biking or mountain biking or all of it? Like what's your favorite thing there?
Yeah, pretty much all of it. Yeah, road bike, mountain biking. I used to like work in a bunch of bike shops. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
I
what I
remember
like to
that.
do, honestly. Those would always be my study breaks and stuff. Go for a bike ride, just kind of reset the brain a little bit, and then come back fresh. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
got into mountain
kind of
biking
along.
last year.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Are you still
Yeah,
doing it, Nate?
last year and this year I've done a lot of it.
Oh, nice. You're out in Utah, right?
So I
Oh,
mean,
sweet.
my friend that I go with, has a normal job, so he's got to be like to work by 8. So we would always do Corner Canyon
Oh,
if you've
nice.
ever
Yeah,
done that. Yeah.
I
So
have.
we
Yeah,
just
it's
do that
nice.
over and over and over. Anyways,
Oh,
but
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a blast. I love it
it
out there.
is awesome. Really good workout for 40 minutes climbing up and then, just 10 minutes of fun just flying down.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's what I've been trying to do a lot more. We just got over our busy season here at work. Like I work at like a tax accounting firm, and we do a lot of extensions. And so, the September 15th deadline was pretty heavy. So now that that's done, I'm getting out a lot more, which has been really nice. And to
Yeah.
answer your question, Logan, yeah, I definitely just still do it a lot.
Oh yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Do you guys still have like the October 15th deadline, or is that not as much of a deal at your firm?
Yeah, not as much.
Or
We have a
like,
small team that
okay.
does like corporate returns and individuals, but Our firm, we mainly focus on like private equity and hedge funds.
Oh,
So
okay.
like we're in like the alternative investments department, and so it's a pretty like niche part of tax. But yeah, we just mainly deal with partnerships and some C corps and stuff here and there. But now that we're past September 15th, we're pretty much done though, which is nice.
So did you
One
just
thing I
smash
actually,
reg?
oh,
What'd you
sorry.
get on reg?
Oh, it's kind of funny actually. Like reg was actually my lowest score. I took it. It was kind of like an interesting story with that. Like I took it like right after our spring busy season.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already like a little bit burnt out from that, but I'm like, now's the time to do it. I don't want to wait anymore. Like summer's only going to get busier. So I just did that. And then it was like a week before I took it, I was starting to like get sick. And like the week before I wanted to do all my like, cram study session and everything,
Yeah.
I just couldn't. Like I had the strength to work and then just go to bed and that was it. So that kind
Mm-hmm.
of messed some things up actually. I think I barely passed that one with like a 77. I'm like, oh, geez, probably should have done a little better on that one, but kind of just had to throw it together though. And it was a little bit of a ditch
Yeah.
effort on that one. But thankfully, yeah, Superfast helped a ton.
No, that's a common that's just that comes up all the time. Like I've had a lot of emails over the years from someone who's like a tax, not a, they're like an audit manager, and they're
Mm.
like, I'm really embarrassed. I've been working on these exams for, uh, whatever, 5 years or something. And I'm a audit manager and or no, they're gonna be promoted to an audit manager if they can just pass the CPA.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't pass audit, but I do audits all day. And
Yeah.
it's just an example of how these exams are just so specific to
Hmm.
just how you study for them. They're not,
Yeah.
it's not the same. You can be an expert at like auditing a real world business or, doing like tax returns. And it's just, they just cover so many topics, even though it's within tax.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's just,
No,
like
yeah.
you
I
have to
definitely
nail
saw
down
that.
your process regardless of like your real world expertise.
Yeah. I felt like Reg was also a little weird too. There was a bunch of like concepts that like I was like, wow, okay, they're really hitting it home, like random ones like what is it? Like disaster relief credits and things
Hmm.
like that. Like that was a huge
Yeah.
part. I'm like, why is this such a big part of this exam? Just really, really random,
Yeah,
but glad it's over.
right. Especially, yeah, it has to be like a government mandated disaster area or whatever. And
Mhm.
so it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a lot of years that doesn't even happen in the United States or
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm actually really curious about this because I remember in school you have a really elaborate way of taking notes, or at least you make your
Hmm.
notes really, really nice looking, like they're the prettiest notes I've ever seen in my life. Um, what was your process for those topics that you really struggled with? Because we talk about flashcards. Did you make flashcards, or did you just keep doing your typical note? Like, what did you do to hit those topics that you really struggled with?
Yeah, I felt like that was something I changed up a ton throughout this my like throughout the journey. I realized I probably wasn't gonna have time to like do handwritten notes like the way I did in college because I just didn't want to spend all that energy just writing it down and
Mhm.
making it look good.
Yeah.
So I tried for a while just like doing just like typing it out in Google Docs, just key points and things, and that helped like a decent amount, but I felt like I just never went back and actually read those notes. It just wasn't really effective for me. I ended up landing on like actually handwriting just like little flashcards, but I'd actually put like a lot more down on the flashcard than like just a normal like just quizzing flashcard.
Hmm.
Like I'd maybe put the term on the front and then I'd add like several lines of notes on the back because it kind of helped me just like visualize what it looked like. And I would like get some colored pencils and stuff and I'd bold certain lines and it kind of helped me just to like visualize like, the topic. And so like I remember one time I went on a trip with my family, I think before I was going to retake audit. And I just brought the whole stack of those. And it was kind of cool because each topic just kind of had its own little flashcard. It wasn't something that like somebody could quiz me on or anything, but it was
Hmm.
something I could kind of just look at and just kind of remind myself of those topics. Um, and so yeah, I mean they still looked pretty good, I'll be honest. I'll toot my own
Oh
horn on
yeah,
that,
I'm
but
sure.
they
I've
were
seen
they
it.
were
I've
great.
seen
I
it.
kept them all too, so I'm happy to send them to you if you'd like.
Oh, cool.
But
Yeah, maybe we can have like a link to one picture of it at the in the
sure,
podcast
yeah.
interview. Did you like you were reviewing those? Did you also like review those the day like for your final review for the exam? Like, did that become a bigger part of your review, or was it kind of just a constant thing throughout your process?
I'd say it was like kind of constant. Like if anything, just writing them out helped a lot. I think kind of
Yeah.
towards the end there'd be a lot where I would just write out, and then I'd learn it or it just wasn't that helpful anymore, so I'd throw it out. But then there'd always be like the core ones that really helped a ton. And then
Okay.
also the big thing is like was taking them to the exam and just studying in the car. I remember that one actually helped a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I remember especially my last few would be dark in the morning because I was like the 8 a.m. exam. My brain was just a lot more
Yeah.
awake at that time.
Yeah.
So I'd be sitting out there in the parking lot, it's pitch black outside, got my little like, cabin light on. I'm just studying. It was unique for sure.
That's
But it
good.
helped a lot though, just going in with with everything fresh in my mind. I remember those helped a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I did this. Well, obviously, that's where the whole strategy came from. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And I would just every time I would get my flashcards down to where the morning of I had like 30 iffy ones left, and
Hmm.
reviewing those, then it's like that was like the final little piece that, of stuff that I might not know that well. And I would always see
Yeah.
4 or 5 things from those last 30
Mhm.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely
Yeah.
saw that a few times. Like I think especially with audit or BEC, just random terms, just having those like just reviewing those right before I went in, it was nice. It helped a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there really are. There's just like so many little strategies that on their own, like if you're just putting it all together, just gives you so many, you're like layering together all these advantages
Yeah.
that kind of makes it hard to go wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's just one piece that can be worth, I don't know, 5 points the last
Oh
half
yeah.
hour before you walk in. So
Yeah. No, totally.
yeah.
What was your strategy with the Sims? Because you've talked a lot about the MCQs, and I feel like you've kind of mentioned your strategy with the Sims in like the forum, but uh, yeah, what was your idea with the Sims? Because you were studying full time, so normally we tell people to study extra on the weekends, but you were
Mhm.
already fortunate enough to study a lot just the whole week. So
Yeah.
did you ever incorporate the Sims into that, or like what did that look like?
Yeah. I think at the beginning I would study a lot more of The Sims. But as time went on, I think I kind of just more focused on the multiple choice questions because I found like when I was in the exam, like just getting through the multiple choice questions as quick as I could and saving a lot of time at the end for the Sims was like the most important thing. Because there were several that like, they seemed really tough, but if you just spent the time necessary to work through them, you'd be totally fine.
Mhm.
And so I kind of just focused on multiple choice questions for that reason. But as far as like studying for them, though, I think in like usually the last week of studying is when I'd really hammer them. I'd sprinkle them here and there on like important topics and stuff, and I'd probably also go look up and just see what the most important Sims were to know. Like I heard that like for FAR, the bank reconciliation one was really important, and some other like adjusting journal entry ones were important. So I would go and study those a ton. But that wasn't really until like about like the last week leading up to the exam, just because I really wanted to focus on multiple choice questions and just nail those topics down.
Yeah.
Do you have like a goal for how quickly to get through the multiple choice questions? Like how quickly did you typically make it through those to give yourself enough time for the Sims?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to be done. I think I didn't want to spend, I think, more than like, I think at the latest, I didn't want to have less than 2 hours after the second testlet. So be done with multiple choice questions after at the most 2 hours. And I think if I could get through them in about an hour and a half, that'd be great. And I didn't want to rush through them, obviously.
Mhm.
But the biggest thing I think was like, okay, do I know this question? Great. But if I don't, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Just give it a good guess and then go to the next one. And that was
Yeah.
something also that on audit, my first attempt, I really failed to realize. Like I wrote down almost every question on my first attempt, making sure I knew it. And I spent like 2.5 hours on the first two testlets. And I had like no time at the end for the Sims, and it just
Yeah.
totally
Mhm.
wrecked me.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
said, if you're stressed out, it's hard to sit there and try to like, yeah, especially the Sims with all those exhibits. If you just sit there and you kind of like reopen them, look at things back and forth, it starts to like make sense. But
Yeah.
you have to have the time to do that. And if you're pressed for time, you're already stressed out. Yeah, it's like you can be really
Hmm.
prepared, but time management alone can make you fail on exam day. It's just,
Yeah.
again, there's just all these aspects that you have to just kind of have lined up.
Totally.
I had a question in there. Okay, so I asked you this earlier, but so clearly we're very familiar with like what was in the pro videos. Did you really watch those after your audit attempt? Is that when you like dove into them and was like, okay, I'm gonna just follow this?
Yeah, I remember like the first round. I think like I got through them all, but I mean, yeah, I was pretty dedicated at the beginning. Like I watched them all and everything, and
Hmm.
I knew it. I was taking notes and everything, but as time kind of went on, I'm like, okay, I felt like certain things were going to work, certain things weren't. It's just kind of weeded out a lot of things. But then yeah, after my fail and I was retaking, or I was taking BEC, but then retaking audit as well. Um, yeah, I went back and rewatched all of those and
I
just kind of
see.
was like, okay, like I understand this a bit now. This is what I want to implement, do this and that. I feel like those pro videos you do kind of have to watch maybe a couple times over,
Yeah,
and maybe throughout the process just to kind of
right.
remind yourself of like what you're doing.
Yes. And then the other thing that happens is like someone that's just starting to study, and this is basically what it sounds like happened with you. Um, it's like you haven't really run into the issues that you will likely run into. Like you haven't gotten intimately familiar with the problems of like the traditional study approach. And
Hmm.
so someone can watch the videos even and just kind of think, well, and the other thing is most people doing this like have a master's degree. So it's
Hmm.
like, I don't need to watch videos about how to study. Like I know how to study, have a
Yeah.
master's
Mhm.
degree. So
Yeah. I felt like also like, you do watch it and you are pretty hyped. You're like, okay, yeah, let's do this. This is the way to study and everything. And then you come up on all the material and everything just looks different. Like, you get
mhm.
through like, F1 or F2 and you're like, oh my gosh. And so you start kind of just scrambling of thinking of like, how can I do this better? Yeah, even just the multiple choice question first approach it is pretty hard to do it first. Like I've seen a lot of people like online that just cannot like grasp that concept.
Yeah.
But once you do kind of
Yeah.
just trust in it and you actually see how it works, it's like, okay, yeah, no, this is the way to do it. But it does take like a lot of trial and error though.
So that's
Yeah.
another
It's
question. Pushing through the confusion. I think one thing that's nice about or that feels nice about the traditional approach is watching a video. It's like, okay, this professor's explaining this to me. This is all
Mhm.
making sense. It like, you're never forced to like push through a bunch of confusion just by
Mhm.
reading the chapter, but then you run into that with, the questions. And at
Mhm.
some point, you have to deal with that, whether you're following the traditional approach or our approach or whatever, just really learning how the questions work. So when you came to BEC and you were like, I'm going to try the super fast CPA approach or really apply it, how long did that take before it clicked that time? Was it like a week or two or?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably like about a week. I
Okay.
think I don't think it was very long, honestly, because I quickly realized like what I was doing wrong in the first exam.
Mm-hmm.
Like after I failed, it was kind of like a wake up call of like, okay, something needs to change. I was like honestly really bummed. Like, failing an exam sucks.
Yeah.
Came out of it, and I remember walking out of the exam, and I didn't really feel like I passed, but actually seeing that score, it was like, oh man, this is hard. This sucks.
Right.
But when it kind of gave me like motivation actually, just to like go back, change some things up, see what I need to do different. And that's kind of what motivated me to like actually really engage the super fast CPA approach. And so yeah, I'd say after like about a week or so of doing that, kind of finally letting go of like the exam day ready thing, um, being okay with like moving on to a different topic without being 100% on the other one is,
Yeah.
I'd say that probably took about like a week or two or so to get used to.
Yeah. Yeah. My Wiley dashboard was just a train wreck. I mean, it was like you're 5% completed, because I would
Yeah.
just use the questions. I wasn't trying to get them right or anything. And anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
the dashboard is kind of I get the intent of it, obviously, like having tracking in there, but it's kind of a red herring for what really
Mhm.
is important.
Yeah. No, I
So,
felt the same way as well, like with the simulated exams. Like I
mhm.
know a lot of people have mixed reviews about those, but I know that you guys kind of allude to the fact that it's like you don't really need to do those unless you have a lot of extra time. And I kind of found out it's like they either make you feel really good that it's like, oh, hey, I did pretty well. But if you don't do that great, then it really just kills your confidence going into the
Mhm.
exam. And that was kind of another thing too. It's like I wanted to get 100%. I wanted to do, to do that, get the exam day ready thing. But then I was like, this just isn't going to work. Like, it's totally fine if I don't do this. My time is way better spent just doing multiple choice questions.
Yeah. So when you finished, you were working full time again, or you had started your job?
Yeah. So I finished 3 of the exams before I started working. And then I finished reg, yeah, when I was doing full time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you do anything big to celebrate or like buy yourself a new mountain bike or anything? You probably already had
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah. I did like, yeah, we kind of had like a tradition with me and my family. Like, we'd always go out to like our favorite dinner place after I passed an exam. So we went there right after that weekend, which was great. And then, yeah, I did just buy myself a new road bike as well, kind of built that up and have been riding that as well. So it
Nice.
felt pretty good to just to kind of celebrate like that. It's kind of like retail therapy, but it's deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially right when you have something you're like, okay, I actually did like deserve this. Yeah, it's awesome. And then just the
Yeah.
relief of being done. I mean, just being done
Yeah.
is the best thing, the best reward out passing. Yeah.
No, it felt great, honestly. I remember I was here at work actually, and one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the whole process was just waiting for my exam score that morning. Like, especially for FAR, I remember I was just like a wreck that morning. And, I was here at work and we're all like having lunch and stuff, and I'm just waiting for it to drop. And it was super late, way later than everybody was expecting. I was just like a basket case that morning. And then, I saw like the past and I'm like, oh my gosh. And, luckily everybody else knew what was going on. They were all kind of waiting for me to get my score. So it just felt great just having that done and everything. And then I ended up, I think that weekend, just doing the ethics exam and all the other paperwork and stuff, because I just wanted it out of the way.
Yeah.
So it feels great to just have it all behind me now.
Yeah. Just having
With
work and not studying just feels like I don't know, feels like life's so easy after that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How but you had to wait quite a while for the last one, right? Because you took your first three
Yeah.
in 2023, but
Hmm.
then
Oh,
you took your fourth one, but you didn't take it like in January. You didn't have to wait like 6 months. You took it in May. So did you have to wait like
Yeah.
2 months to get your
Yeah. It was
score?
about like 2.5 months, I think. Yeah. I took it,
Oh
I think
man.
towards the end of, or like middle of May, I think. And then I got my
Mhm.
score like July 30th. So it was kind of weird because like I took it, I didn't have another exam to study for. It was kind of too long of a time to like, keep studying for reg. And I felt pretty good walking out of it. So I'm like, I guess,
Mhm.
I don't know, we'll just wait. And by the time, score release was coming out, I'm like, oh, this is so long ago. Like it was so weird.
Yeah.
Like luckily I wasn't like nervous that entire time, but
Hmm.
the days leading up to it though, I'm like, oh geez, yeah, this has been a long time coming. I'm hoping this is over.
It's just it's just so long. Like
Yeah.
I feel so bad for everybody who's taken exams this year,
Yeah.
especially, and I'm
yeah.
especially glad that they're gonna switch back to the continuous testing, at least for the core exams next year,
Yeah.
because I can't imagine, like, especially people who took it in January, waiting 6 months till
Yeah.
June to get their score. Like, that's just 2.5, but yeah, I'm sure 2.5 months.
Yeah.
By that point, you've pretty much forgotten a lot of it. So you'd have
Oh
to
yeah.
like kind of totally restudy if you failed. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
No, that was super frustrating. I mean, yeah, thankfully I didn't have to go through
yeah.
that like in the worst of it, but yeah, planning for that and everything, that would have been really tough. So if that was your situation, whoever's reading or watching this, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, it sucks.
2024 is almost over. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
a fail in 2024 was just a much bigger deal because
Yeah.
you either had to decide to keep studying for that section. I mean, after you took it to just try and keep up on it or move on. And then, like you said, you're 3 months removed from studying from the one you just failed. So you're starting over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, anyways. Let's see. We kind of went through what your day looked like. Did you do anything different on the weekends? Or, I mean, kind of follow the same format because.
Yeah. I try to do as much as I could. Like since I was already studying full time throughout the
Mhm.
week, I mean, I know this isn't like totally recommended, but sometimes I would give myself like a day off, like on Saturday or Sunday,
Yeah.
just to kind of like reset. I'd usually try to do at least a little bit, but I think on the weekends I'd only average like maybe 1 or 2 hours, just because I was already studying throughout the week.
Right. Yeah, that
And
makes
luckily for
sense.
me, like I felt like it just helped just to kind of reset the brain, come back, and usually by Monday I'd be feeling great. Didn't feel like I lost a whole lot of stuff or anything. And yeah, again, I know that you guys don't often recommend taking rest days and stuff, but there definitely was a few days where like my brain just kind of needed a break. So
Mhm.
depending on your situation, I feel
Yeah.
like it can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. the reason we say that is because as a blanket statement, it's easier to say
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. But if your process is working, like it was obviously working for you, uh, you know, I'm not saying take the whole week off, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
if it's working and you're able to still do it by not doing it on Saturday occasionally, like or on Sunday occasionally, that's great. The problem is
Yeah.
too many people, if they take that one rest day, then
Oh yeah.
well, then maybe I'll take another one and then another one. But you had the control to not do that. So did that continue even when you were working? Like were you still kind of not studying as much on the weekends, or did you start studying a little bit more once you were working full time for reg?
Yeah, I think I did study a little more on the weekends during that time, like because I knew I'm like, okay, this is the good amount of time to study,
Hmm.
kind of just get ahead. And yeah, and during that time, I was also just like waking up at 5 a.m. every morning as well, because that was one of the pieces of advice as well that I liked a lot was just getting up early, doing it before work, because after work there was no chance I was going to get it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the weekends kind of allowed me just to like sleep in a little bit and then study and do a little bit more. And yeah, I would kind of just adapt the study strategy that I had during during my full-time study plan was when I would just kind of get through it just a couple blocks of like the 2 hour study session with the re-review and maybe just do a couple of those and call it good. But yeah, I think that's what I can remember. I feel like it was kind of a while ago already, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's
Even
what it
just a few
was.
months removed. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's again, just I had this like tangible sense of relief for months. Just think like I don't have to study tomorrow morning. I'm done.
Mhm.
Yeah. But when you might have said this, when you were studying all day every day, did you approach it the same way, try to start in the morning and just knock it out in the first 6 hours of the day?
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I would do. I think there was a few times I would like wait until later in the day, and I could already feel just my brain was already just a little bit behind
Hmm.
compared to like in the morning.
Hmm.
So I think even like yeah, leading up to FAR, I was like especially stressed for that one. And yeah, I think even I had the whole day to study, and I would still like I think I started studying one time at like 5 a.m. And my parents were like, "You were up early. Like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just woke up and wanted to start studying. My brain just felt awake at that time.
Hmm.
You're
Yeah.
still tired for sure, and it's an effort to get up and do it. But yeah, those first few hours of the day were like by far my most productive.
Yeah.
It was just the time to get it done, and as the day went on, I could just kind of feel my brain just not as focused anymore. So
Right.
that helped
Hmm.
a ton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about your flashcards and Sims. I guess the last thing is like your I think you kind of mentioned this, your final review. So you would leave about a week after getting through all the material.
Yeah, it kind of just depended on like how quick I actually got through it. But yeah, I felt like I usually had about like a week for every exam of like, just, hey, I'm already through the material. What do I do? And I think I actually put that to the forum one time, and Logan recommended just, yeah, like get through as many of those re-review sessions as you can. Maybe go back to a couple areas to polish, but just make sure that you're still just covering everything.
Mm.
And that helped a lot. I think I tried to get through as many just 30 sets of 30 multiple choice questions that I could. And then I would also just focus every once in a while those on like some problem areas. Like for audit, I think like A4 was like one of the tougher ones. So I would, just focus 30 sets of multiple choice questions on those, maybe
Hmm.
just once or twice, and then I'd continue going on with the other stuff. And yeah, I mean, even though it was such like a broad amount of questions, I felt like I still was, getting the topics down that I needed to.
Yep. And like you said, just doing those sets of questions that like it solves so many problems in advance on test day. You just get so used to taking questions that you're fast at MCQs. You're like good at it by then. I know I say that all the time.
Yeah.
You get good at answering questions.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what it was. I felt like even with reg as well, like I went in there and I finished that exam with like an hour and a half left. I was kind of scared. I'm like, did I miss something? Like, did I
Yeah.
skip a sim or something? But I attributed that to just the fact that like I was in the multiple choice questions. I just knew how to answer them. And I also just knew if I like didn't know something and I could just kind of move on to the
Yeah.
next thing. I
Hmm.
felt like by then I had just nailed down the strategy pretty well.
Yeah. You have anything else,
Yeah,
Logan?
it's been awesome to like this is like the first time for me personally, because I've only been working with SuperfastCPA CPA for about a year, like that I was like, hey, this is somebody that I talked to about this. Like I actually talked to like it's really cool seeing you like and I've been like we've been in contact a little bit throughout your process, and it's been really cool to see your progress, like see you passing the exams and excited about it. What just so I was the person who like introduced you to it, or had you kind of heard the ads before, like, or was
No,
I like the
yeah.
first person you'd ever
He's
talked
like,
to about
Logan,
it?
you were bugging everyone about it. And
I was. I talked to everybody about it. I'm sure he can attest to that.
Yeah, no,
that's
I think
funny.
yeah, I hadn't heard about it until you had mentioned
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I remember, yeah, we were just in classes and stuff, and I think you and Hiram and I can't. There may be a couple other people you've been talking about it, but like Logan was basically just like the celebrity in our cohort. He told everybody the thing like, yeah, I got two kids. I'm working and doing all that and passed them like that. We're all like, oh my gosh, how did you do it? Because we all hadn't taken them yet.
Yeah.
And so when we heard, super
I-
fast, it was like, okay, yeah, I feel like this is the way to do it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It was I was definitely like I wasn't trying to be like bragging, but I was
Mhm.
definitely like, come on, we can all do this. Like
Yeah.
we can definitely do it. And um yeah, it's pretty cool. But I
No,
mean you did
yeah.
awesome. Like I knew you would crush it once you got it figured out, and you definitely did.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Have you, you're just working now, like that don't have anything like I mean
Yeah.
don't have anything else going on, but like
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
you know, getting used to working and everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're actually a really good spot right now. Like we just finished with our deadline. This is kind of like the spot that I've been waiting to be at for a while now. Like, done with the exams,
Yeah.
we're past our deadline and we're just kind of floating for the rest of the year. We got some small things here and there, but we have a lot of downtime and yeah, it just feels really good just to get it done. And I definitely know what
Have
you
you
kind of
received your license yet? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. No, actually, I haven't. Colorado's really slow with it, unfortunately. They have to like review the application like in their like bi-monthly board meetings, I think.
Oh,
And so like their next one's going to be like middle of October. So I still
Mhm.
have to wait quite a bit. I'm like, oh my gosh. I had it all submitted at the beginning of August, and I thought that it would get there
now you're still
before that
waiting.
thing.
Oh
And
man.
NASBA was just sitting on it for the longest time. They sent me so many emails of like, hey, it went through this thing, then it went through this this level of review, and now it's ready for this level of review. And I'm like, when does it end? Just give me my license already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the crappy part's over. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, luckily now it's like there's nothing I have to do or anything. I'm just waiting. So
Yeah.
I'm not complaining too much. In fact, actually, it was kind of funny. Like during the middle of my exams, like for some reason, one of my biggest motivators, not my biggest, but it was kind of in the back of my mind was like just that thought of like actually getting the piece of paper and like,
Hmm.
Oh
getting
yeah.
it nicely framed and putting it up on the wall. Like, I don't know why. I just thought about like, taking it to like a framer and just getting it nice, just having that up on the wall. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's the goal right there. And for some reason, just it was weird things like that that sometimes kept me going.
I mean, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my license is like in a drawer somewhere, but
Utah, I hope Colorado actually sends you like a nice looking one, because Utah just sends you an email with a PDF and
Oh,
you can just
really?
print it out
yeah,
yourself.
the little Doppel
Oh,
Yeah.
thing. It's the
interesting.
same license. Like my wife's a dental
It's the same.
hygienist. She gets the
You just
same piece of
you
paper.
just get it sent and print it out. Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they send us something. I mean, we had to pay like
Cool.
$50
I hope
for it because
so.
they're cheap,
I hope so.
they're like that. But yeah, they actually did have that. There was like a successful candidate letter that you can order from NASBA. I'm like, oh, that's got to be cool. And it came in like just like this folded up envelope. I'm like, oh, are you serious? Like I paid $20 for this. I'm
That,
like, this is a waste.
yeah.
It's just how they are.
Okay. Well, to not take up much more of your time, I appreciate you doing the call, man.
Yeah.
The last thing we always ask is what would be your top 3 tips, even if it's stuff we already covered,
Mhm.
to people struggling still trying to figure out their own process?
Yeah, I mean, first one I remember like I think it was after I passed FAR where I was doubting myself a ton during that time. I just wasn't sure if I was going to do it, and then luckily passed it. And my biggest thought was just don't count yourself out. Like never think that
Mhm.
it's over. Don't ever think that you can't do it. You're not smart enough. If you put in the time and you just keep going, it is absolutely 100% like possible. So never count yourself out. And then the next one, yeah, I mean, I think that this is the common super fast CPA thing is to just ditch lectures. I think once I just kind of let those go and then just relied on the book during hard, like, more difficult topics.
Mhm.
And then just not being super like worried about the exam day ready thing. I think once you can kind of just let that go and just really trust in super fast CPA method, that's going to help you a ton. And then third, I'd say probably like definitely a lot of people ask like how you can stay motivated. and like
Yeah.
just dedicated to studying. And yeah, I mean, I like how that was your main thing, was to, write that down, kind of just keep that in mind. Like, why am I actually doing this? I feel like no matter what it is, just kind of keeping that in your head, and always just stay focused on that. I think that helps you a ton. Whether it's, putting just a piece of paper up on your wall, like me, or whether
Yeah.
it's like just bigger career goals or something. I feel like that's definitely that's what helped me a lot get through it.
Yeah. So you did use that. You like wrote something out and put it where you study.
I can't say I put it where I study. I was more just referring to like my just the certificate, at the end, getting that
Yeah.
framed and stuff.
But yeah, just that one common thought that you
Oh yeah.
always had. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I like wrote it down or anything like that,
Mhm.
but I feel like that was just always in the back of my mind. Like for me, I
Yeah.
just did not want to have like a roof over my career. I knew that like you've said before, like the
Mhm.
CPA is just like the crown jewel of
Mhm.
accounting. Like no one cares if you got, your master's or what your GPA was. It's like, the CPA is the main thing. That's what you want to go for. And I kind of had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, now's the time to do it. That's what I want to do. And yeah, I feel like that helped a ton.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, thanks for doing the call, Kevin. I'm glad you
Yeah.
gave it a second shot, and you would have figured it out eventually, but hopefully we helped speed it up. So yeah, congrats on
Yeah.
being done.
No, yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
congrats.
a pleasure to be on the call with you guys as well. It kind of feels surreal, watching those podcasts and then being in this spot too. I know some other
Oh
people
yeah.
have said that as well, but it
Yeah.
really is true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny.
All right, that was the episode with Kevin. I think it was an awesome episode. Again, I know Kevin personally, so it was awesome to be able to see him make progress through this and do so well on his exams. And I just love his story of kind of wanting a refund and not really being sure if this was right for him. And then in the end, he decided to go for it again. And again, you saw the results. He passed his exams. He did amazing. And he was able to go back to focusing on work, family, and biking. I'm sure that you liked this episode. And if you did, make sure to like it and leave a comment in the YouTube video or leave a rating in your favorite podcast app. Just another reminder, before you go, make sure you check out our Superfast CPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com. Again, it's free. It is 1 hour, and we will teach you how to pass the CPA exam without wasting months of your time. So make sure you check that out, and also make sure you share this podcast with everyone you know who is going through the CPA exams. This podcast is one of the greatest free resources out there for CPA exam candidates. So make sure you share it with your friends and your family so that they can also start doing this effective approach to passing the CPA exams. With all that, that was a great episode with Kevin, and thanks for watching. We will see you in the next episode.